America is about to witness the biggest housing market transformation since 2008. The elimination of federal income tax could trigger the largest mass migration of wealth and people in U.S. history. Take a listen to the plans to eliminate income tax.
America is going to be very rich again, and it's going to happen very quickly. It's time for the United States to return to the system that made us richer and more powerful than ever before. Do you know, the United States in 1870 to 1913, all tariffs, and that was the richest period in the history of the United States, relatively speaking. In other words, relatively. And they set up the Great Tariff Commission of 1887, and this commission had one function: what to do with all the money that we took in. It was so enormous that they had no idea. It was a blue ribbon committee. It was set up 1887, and what to do with all of the money that we had. And again, Teddy Roosevelt was a beneficiary, because when McKinley was killed, he took over this vast sum of money, and he did all of those national parks and all of the other things. And I'm not knocking him, but he was given a vast amount of money, and that was all made through tariffs. We had no income tax. The income tax came in 1913. As I said in my speech last week, instead of taxing our citizens to enrich foreign nations, we should be tariffing and taxing foreign nations to enrich our citizens.
What you just heard isn't just campaign rhetoric. It's a blueprint for the most dramatic economic restructuring since the Federal Reserve was created in 1913. Let's look at the historical precedent that Trump is referencing. Between 1870 and 1913, America operated purely on tariffs with no federal income tax. During this period, now known as the Gilded Age, America experienced unprecedented economic growth and became the world's leading industrial power. But here's what makes this particularly relevant to today's housing market. During that tariff-only period, America saw the largest expansion of home ownership and new city development in its history. The Gilded Age gave birth to entire new cities and transformed small towns into major metropolitan areas. Why? Because when Americans kept 100% of their earnings, they invested heavily in real estate and local development. Consider this. Right now, most Americans work until May just to pay their federal taxes. That's nearly half a year of income going to the federal government. The elimination of federal income tax would effectively give every working American a 5-month pay raise. Think about that. 5 additional months of income that could go directly into home ownership, investment, and wealth building. Let me show you exactly why this isn't just another headline, but a seismic shift that's already beginning to unfold. We're about to dive deep into the data, the patterns, and most importantly, the money trail that nobody's talking about. Right now, we're seeing roughly 300,000 people per year moving to states with no income tax. Impressive, right? But here's where it gets interesting. When we analyze historical data from the last major tax reform in 2017, we saw a 40% increase in migration to low tax states within just 18 months. Now, imagine what would happen with a complete elimination of federal income tax. Let's break this down with real numbers. For a family making $85,000 a year, the median household income in America, the elimination of federal income tax would mean approximately $12,750 more in their pocket annually. That's over $1,000 extra per month. And here's the thing, this is what most analysts are missing. This isn't just about having more money, it's about where people choose to live when they have this money. We've identified what we call the new growth triangle. 3 distinct geographical categories that are positioned for explosive growth. First, we're seeing remarkable potential in mid-sized cities within 2 hours of major metros. These areas offer the perfect balance of affordability and accessibility. Second, small cities with strong internet infrastructure are becoming increasingly attractive to remote workers and digital businesses. Third, we're witnessing the rise of emerging tech hubs in traditionally overlooked states, where lower costs of living combine with growing innovation ecosystems. Let's look at some hard numbers. Cities like Huntsville, Alabama, Boise, Idaho, and Durham, North Carolina have seen property value increases of 28, 25, and 22% respectively in the last year alone. But here's what's fascinating. These cities still have median home prices 30 to 40% below the national average. But the real story? It's in the data that nobody's talking about. Let's look at building permit applications in these areas. We're seeing a 45% increase in commercial development applications in these regions compared to last year. This isn't just residential movement, this is businesses preparing for a shift. Currently, 12.7% of full-time employees work from home, while 28.2% work in hybrid arrangements. But here's the crucial data point. 98% of workers want to work remotely at least some of the time. With no federal income tax, the financial incentives to stay in high-cost cities purely for higher salaries dramatically decreases. Let's do some math. Take a software engineer making $150,000 in San Francisco. After federal and California state taxes, they take home about $95,000. Now, imagine no federal income tax and a move to Texas or Florida. Their take-home pay would jump to approximately $138,000, a 45% increase in disposable income. But here's what makes this transformation truly extraordinary. It's not just about real estate investors or high-income earners. This could be the greatest opportunity for everyday Americans to build wealth that we haven't seen in generations. Let me show you why. Take a typical teacher making $45,000 a year. Currently, they're paying about $5,400 in federal income tax. That's money that could cover 5 months of rent in many parts of the country, or become a down payment on their first home within just a few years of saving. For a nurse making $75,000, the elimination of federal income tax means an extra $9,800 annually, enough to completely transform their ability to enter the housing market or invest in their children's future. Small business owners would see even more dramatic effects. Without federal income tax, a family-owned restaurant generating $200,000 in profit could reinvest an additional $44,000 back into their business annually. That's enough to hire 2 new employees, upgrade equipment, or expand to a second location. We're talking about real growth that creates real jobs in local communities. But the ripple effects go even deeper. When local businesses have more capital to invest and families have more disposable income, we see what economists call the community multiplier effect. Local spending increases by an average of 30% within the first year of major tax changes. This creates a virtuous cycle of economic growth. More local spending leads to more local jobs, which leads to more local spending. For first-time home buyers, this shift could be transformative. Let's look at Susan, a dental hygienist in Ohio. With her current take-home pay, she qualifies for a $180,000 home mortgage. Without federal income tax, her qualifying amount jumps to $250,000, suddenly putting her in range of neighborhoods with better schools and higher appreciation rates. It's not just about buying a house, it's about accessing better opportunities for entire families. For older Americans, the impact could be equally significant. A couple in their 50s making a combined $100,000 could redirect their entire federal tax burden, about $15,000, into retirement savings or home equity. Over just 5 years, that's $75,000 plus investment returns that could help secure their retirement or leave a legacy for their children. Please take 2 seconds to help me out and hit the like and subscribe if you find this video interesting so far. Each like and subscribe helps support this channel and keeps us motivated to keep making you great content. Thank you. Now, let's continue. The data shows us something remarkable. When families keep more of their income, they don't just spend it, they invest it. Historical studies of major tax changes show that 60% of increased take-home pay typically goes toward wealth-building activities like education, business formation, and real estate investment. It's an opportunity for millions of Americans to jump several rungs up the economic ladder at once. This brings us to the investment opportunities. We're seeing 3 clear trends emerging in the market. The first is what we call the secondary market boom. Historical data shows that when primary markets become overvalued by 25% or more, secondary markets typically see a 3 to 5 year period of accelerated growth. We're already at the tipping point in most major coastal markets. The second trend is what we're calling the infrastructure play. Cities with recent major infrastructure investments are positioned for the biggest gains. Look at places like Chattanooga, Tennessee, with its municipal fiber network, or Des Moines, Iowa, with its growing tech corridor. The third trend is the remote work reset, where communities within 2 hours of major airports, but with housing costs 40% or more below major metro averages, are seeing the fastest appreciation rates. But here's where it gets really interesting. When we overlay current migration patterns with areas that have the highest concentration of remote workers, we find what we call growth convergence zones. These areas where multiple growth factors intersect include the Research Triangle in North Carolina, Northwest Arkansas, the Central Texas Corridor, Idaho's Treasure Valley, and Florida's Space Coast. In these zones, we're seeing remarkable numbers that tell a compelling story. Average property appreciation is reaching 17.8% annually, while new business formation is up 34% year over year. Population growth is 2.3 times the national average, and rental demand has increased by 28% in the last 12 months. But here's the warning sign everyone needs to understand. This shift won't happen evenly. We're already seeing early indicators of what we call value volatility in certain markets. The areas most at risk typically share several concerning characteristics. They have over 40% of their tax base from high-income earners, limited economic diversification, high dependency on state income tax revenue, and limited housing supply elasticity. So what does this mean for you as an investor or home buyer? Your action plan should start with identifying specific city characteristics that signal growth potential. The most promising cities have populations between 250,000 and 1 million, at least 2 major universities within 50 miles, recent infrastructure investments over $100 million, and median home prices below $350,000. When it comes to property types, focus your attention on single-family homes in the $200,000 to $400,000 range, multiple family properties near major transport hubs, commercial properties in emerging downtown areas, and land within 5 miles of major development announcements. Also, if you're looking to invest in a foreclosure, you can be first to know when foreclosures hit your target markets by signing up for free alerts on foreclosure.com to catch investment opportunities the moment they arise. We've included the link in the description below. The timeline for this transformation isn't years, it's months. We're already seeing early movers taking positions in these markets. The data shows that in similar historical situations, the first 18 to 24 months saw the highest appreciation rates. Your immediate action plan could look something like this. The first 30 days should be dedicated to thorough research, where you'll identify target markets, connect with local real estate professionals, begin monitoring price trends, and research local employment and development patterns. The next 30 to 60 days focus on preparation, during which you'll secure financing pre-approval, establish local market connections, create your investment criteria, and set up property alerts in target areas. Finally, in the 60 to 90-day phase, you'll begin making offers in target markets, focusing on properties with value-add potential, looking for motivated sellers, and considering joint venture opportunities. Remember, the elimination of federal income tax isn't just a policy change, it's a catalyst for the biggest wealth redistribution opportunity we've seen in decades. The data shows us where people will move, where businesses will grow, and most importantly, where property values will increase. The question isn't whether this transformation will happen, it's whether you'll be positioned to benefit from it. History shows us that this kind of transformation is not just possible, it's been done before. During America's tariff-only period, we saw the rise of cities like Chicago, Detroit, and Atlanta, from small towns into major metropolitan areas. Property values in these emerging cities increased by as much as 1,000% during the Gilded Age. Today we're seeing the early signs of a similar transformation in cities like Austin, Nashville, and Boise. The question is, will you be ready to capitalize on this shift like the early investors of the Gilded Age? The biggest transfers of wealth don't happen in good times or bad times. They happen in times of transformation. And that transformation starts now. For more detailed analysis and regular updates on these emerging markets, make sure to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell, and watch this one next.